Hey everyone, welcome back yet again. My name is Mark. I am with Grimtastic Baits. That's my own personal company. And we're here doing yet another rating of another mold. Again, this is a no BS review. I don't get paid by anybody. I don't get discounts on molds. I'm not affiliated with anybody. I just want to give an honest to God review of what these molds are and what they're capable of. These are the molds that I actually have for my own business that I shoot so that I can sell them in my small business. Today, I'm trying really hard not to be excited about this one. I'm trying to be very unbiased, but we're reviewing what is probably my favorite mold today, and that is the Epic Bait Molds 4.1 inch Preybait. This thing is, I'll be honest with you, this makes a bait that is truly my confidence bait. I love this thing so much. Let's just get into it. Cost on this. It is a single cavity and it goes for $125 for a single cavity. I can't find anything that's even similar to the styling of this bait. So I don't really have anything to compare with, but I will say the $125 is a little pricey, but what you do get out of it is a lot of versatility and a great bait and something that stands out with all the other baits that are out there being injected that look like a I don't know, like a Kitech or all those hand pour baits that all look the same. This is totally different. $125 for a single cavity. They do sell, Epic Bait Molds does sell a 4 cavity for $320. But I will say this from my personal experience because I had it for a short period of time. Stay away from it. It has a tendency to dent almost every dang time right behind the gill plate area in here. Every time. I had worked for over a month trying to get that mold, to work without denting. And every darn time, it didn't matter what kind of plastic I used, what durometer of plastic I used, the heat that I set it, how I clamped it. I'm sorry, that 4 cavity doesn't work. If there's somebody out there with a 4 cavity that has it and can get it to work without denting, I'd love to know what your secret was. Because even when I see other people that have the 4 cavity posting up and they got a picture of the baits in the mold, every one of them has that telltale dent also. Now, I was able to return it through Epic, and as basically gratitude on my end, I ended up doing this. Yeah, 4 separate ones. It's that important to me that it doesn't dent, and I love the bait that much and I sell so many of these. I had to do something to up my production. So let's get back to the cost. $125, a little spendy. You get a lot of great detail out of this bait and this mold. So I'm giving it an 8. Could be a little better if they took off this stuff, maybe cut down machine time. I do like the back belly part. As you can tell, I have an old school one. Yeah, look at that. This might have been one of the first ones off their line. And you can see I have used and abused it, and it still shoots great. Yeah, I think I bought this as soon as Marling said that it was available at the Epic Bait site. I jumped on it. I didn't even hesitate. I didn't bat an eye at it. I grabbed one right away. So that jumps us kind of into the design. Let's go with this. I'm just waiting for these to domino. What we got here is, like I say, it's a lot like the 5.6. It's a one-of-a-kind design. It's going to be a repeat almost of exactly what I rated the 5.6. This is 4.1 inches overall. It does use a 1/4 inch eye socket, which is indented, so it does fit in there. I wish it was a little deeper so they'd be a little more flush, because the eyes do bulge a little bit. I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but hook slots on the bottom and on the top. Why? If I haven't gone over this with you yet, when you use the 4/0 beast hook or something similar to it, you screw that in, you got the hook slot there, so the bait crushes. When the fish bites down, it totally has that crushability. And this little hook slot here on the top just nestles that thing in so beautifully. Look at that. I picked this color specifically because you could see through it, so you could see the hook and the way it lines up. And you can just cruise this sucker through weeds and logs, sticks, all that stuff, and she'll just roll right over it. Love the design and the idea behind this. Now, it does have that hook slot I was talking about, right there. There is an option. If you want to get rid of that, this is really nice. They make a hook slot delete so that you can pour that without that bottom hook slot. Why? Because if you're going to use this as a trailer, which some people do, they'll use it as a chatterbait trailer, spinnerbait trailer. I use it as a spinnerbait trailer on occasions. You're missing a lot of the meat that needs to go into that, and it doesn't let you have an exposed hook. So this hook slot delete will allow you to do that. That kind of jumps into the versatility that we'll talk about here in a little bit. So anyway, this is a Nate Marling designed bait. He's on YouTube. I'm sure everybody's seen him by now. It does have that nice, tall, thin profile, just like the 5.6. Wing nuts. Yes, yes, yes. You know how fanatic I am about this. You have the option to tighten it down if you want. I'll get into this too and touch on this. And just like the 5.6 also, you have the 3 fins. You got the top fin, little tail, trash fin, and then the little dorsal down there. So, very great action too. This thing, it's got an action unlike most other swim baits. I think it's mostly because of that tail, but it's beautiful. It is. I have to give the design on this a 10. There's no way I can't give this bait a 10 on design. So jumping into versatility, we do, as you know, do singles with it, not a problem. Duals laminate beautifully. You just have to go slow. That's the key. So it does do duals. I know a lot of you are probably waiting to see this one. It does triples. I've just recently started doing triples on these, and it does a wonderful job at that too. Love the triples. And as you notice, yes, I had to put eyes on these. I had to. They look so great when the eyes are on them. So yeah, I picked a funky pink albino looking eye. Also, I just did a video on this. You might have already seen it, on the ability to do the core shot. You'd have to do it your own. I tell you exactly what you need to do to get a core shot to get this to work. And if you don't want to do the core shot, part of getting that tail to change is shooting it through that core. So you can do tail color changes. Very important to me. I love that. As you can see, there are no cold cracks on that at all. It works out beautifully. And you know, it's not meant for core shots, but it will do core shots. I mean, living proof right there. You have the hook slot delete as an option. So much versatility. I have to give it a 10. Versatility on this is a 10. You could do so much with this. I even see some people that are doing the powder painting in there and injecting it. I airbrush these. If you haven't seen that before on my Etsy store, I actually airbrush a lot of these also. So versatility on this. And you can airbrush any bait, don't get me wrong. But this one, just everything looks good on it. So I give it a 10. Now as far as use, again, it is a non-symmetrical design. So doubles and triples, mostly triples, can be very tricky with this bait. But it can be done. All you have to do is make sure you go slow, and you'll be completely fine with that. It does seldomly dent, and it's really weird. In fact, you can see it on this one. It's not even a dent, it's more like a dimple. This is really common, and I'm not sure why. It's just right there at the tail. It doesn't affect the bait or anything like that. If you're a perfectionist, though, like I am, that little dimple will drive you freaking bonkers. And it does that. I'm not sure exactly why, or I wish I could tell you. I've tried to get rid of them, but they show up. The other thing is, if you don't keep your sprue topped off, or you pull your injector up too late and that plastisol's already started sitting, you can get a hollow nose on these. But that's pretty avoidable. That's not really a big deal. Again, with the 4 cavity, even though we're not talking about it, dented all the time. So for these, I shoot the singles. I shoot at 330, much like the 5.6 inch. For duals, slow shoot at 320, and then for the triples, I kind of go the opposite direction, about 340, just so it can make it all the way through the injector and the plate, and then into the bait to get it to triple laminate. You just got to go slow. That's the key. It's just slow. So as far as use on this, I mean, as far as a beginner, clear up to advanced, I give it a 9. It's, it doesn't shoot a perfect bait every time. If it weren't for that little dent right there, and the possibility of every once in a while, because the sprue seems a little too short, making a hollow nose, I'd give it a 10, but I can't. I'm going to give it a 9. So let's jump into the appeal of this. You already know, based on how I'm talking, how much I love this thing. If you look on the Epic Bait molds, it's right at the very top of their page. It's like the third one in when it comes to swim baits or marling baits. It's a bestseller. It sells like crazy from Epic. You can tell that. There's tons of comments on how much people love it. If you do ever see these on the secondary market, which is very rare, they go quick. So the fact that people are not avidly getting rid of these, and when they do, they're gone within, literally within like 2 hours, somebody will snatch these things up. It's a very high demand for this bait still. It is also a great multi-species bait. Heck, clear up, I've all sorts of bass and such, clear up to, I'm keeping this one. I caught a muskie on this one. He tore her up pretty good. But I just keep this one at my workbench because it's just a reminder of what a great fun catch this thing was. And yeah, this ugly color, I was using it and happened to get a nice sized 40-some inch muskie off of it. So I keep that one right up there as my little memorial to that fishing event. So appeal wise, I think y'all know where I'm going with this. This thing is a 10. Definitely a 10 on that. So, y'all want me to break it down as usual, I'm sure, and tell you what this is overall. And I'm going to give it, if you add up everything, divide it by 5 like I always do, highest score yet, 9.4 overall. Do you want this bait? If you fish bass, yeah, you want this bait. That's smallmouth, largemouth. I've caught walleye, or saugeye I should say, on it. This thing is versatile. There's a guy down in Florida, love him to death. He's a kayak tournament fisherman, and he will order bags at a time of these because I think that's kind of his confidence bait too, and he wins. Let me tell you, he's first and second places a lot. So shout out to my man Sherman Bishop. He is doing a great job out there, and I always love seeing pictures from him come back from his tournaments with pictures of the fish that he's caught on my baits. So anyway, I'll stop rambling. I love it. You should love it. You should get it. I'm not fanboying out on this one because it's Epic Baits or anything like that, but I'm fanboying a bit because this is a great bait. Totally worth the price. Even if you're a home hobbyist and you just want a few baits of these for your tackle box and you make your own baits, $125, totally worth it. If you're in the business of making baits and selling them, you're going to be working a long time shooting these a single one at a time. But it could be done. I've done it. I started out with that one right there, and I spent hours and hours and hours just to make up a few packs of baits with it. But in the end, you can see what I've done here. That's not cheap, of course. Well, not for me anyway. I wouldn't have done this if I didn't think this bait was worth it. So yes, small business, hobbyist, whatever you want to call it, go out, get this one. Do not hesitate. If you have any doubts in this, by all means. Another thing I haven't talked about is if you want to try the baits out that these molds make, I sell them. Go to my website before you buy the molds, buy some of my baits, try them out, see if maybe that is the route you want to take. I mean, I don't go to the gun range and just pick out a gun without shooting it first and trying it out and renting one for a little bit or trying out a buddy's. You should be the same way with baits some days. Anyway, I appreciate you watching. Don't subscribe. I'm not your dad. I can't tell you what to do, but I do appreciate you watching. Have a great one and have a great weekend, and I'll see you next week.